Hello, and happy Tuesday to all of you. So, yesterday you didn't have an instructional video like the ones that we've been doing on the different problems because yesterday was stations. Today we're going into a new lesson, which is on absolute value. This is going to be ending this lesson today and tomorrow is going to be ending the work that we're doing in Unit 5 with integers and rational numbers and working with the number line. We'll continue to review these different skills and concepts throughout the next unit, but the next unit is going to bring us into some new ideas and some new topics. So let's go ahead and begin with this example. We have that the absolute value is written with bars. So these bars, we're going to have to figure out how to write them on paper, as well as how to type them on our computer. And these bars mean the absolute value. They're kind of like straightened out parentheses, but they act very differently than parentheses because parentheses don't typically do something to the number unless there's something around those parentheses. But absolute value does. It's actually asking for an answer. So the absolute value of 8. To begin with, on the number line, we're going to count the number of units it takes us to get from 8, the number that's inside of the absolute value bars, and get down to 0. And so I've shown each of the units as these little triangular jumps or angled jumps. So this is 1 jump, 2 jumps, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 jumps. Well, that makes sense because it's at the number 8. So the integer 8, or another way to say it, the integer positive 8, so this could have been plus 8, is 8 units away from 0. And what that tells us then is that the absolute value, the bigness of the number, is 8 units. And so you'll type that into that box. Then we want to look for other numbers that have the same absolute value. And your do now kind of led into this idea that numbers that are opposites have the same absolute value, because in order to be called an opposite, they have to be equal distance away from 0. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units jump. I could just do it all in one. This is 8 units to the left. And if it's 8 units to the left, the absolute value is the same. And we'll talk about why that is in just a moment. So that means that negative 8, the integer negative 8, is also a number with the same absolute value. And the reason for that is opposites are the same distance from 0. So opposites are the same distance from 0 on the number line. And in your sentence, you can either spell out the word number or you can use a hashtag like I did to shorten it. Opposite numbers or opposites are the same distance from 0 on the number line. So they have the same absolute value, because that's what absolute value basically means, is how far a number is from 0 on the number line. Okay, let's use the notation above to express the absolute value of this other number. And so the notation that it's talking about is the notation up here. This is called an absolute value equation. And so that notation, or way of writing, notation means the way to write something, starts with the absolute value bars. And so you put absolute value and then the number. Our number now is negative 8, so the opposite, negative 8. Absolute value bar equals, and then the number of units away from 0. So that's 8 units. Which means that the absolute value doesn't care about whether it's positive or negative. It only cares about how far away something is, either to the right or to the left. So the absolute value of negative 8 is equal to 8 units. You could also just say 8, because that's the number of how big it is. Now, when you type this in, you're going to look for a button that looks like this, slash, slash. It's on top of the Enter key and right below the backspace key. And so you'll see an up and down line. That's the absolute value bar in this context. And then a slash, which is basically like a backwards fraction bar. And what you'll do is you'll press Shift and then this button so that you get the top part, not the diagonal slash, but the up and down line. So you'll click on that and then put the negative symbol, 8, and then again use the same button to get the up and down line for absolute value. And then let's go ahead into the definitions. So the absolute value, you have enough space, I might not, so I'm going to type outside of the box. So absolute value, the absolute value of a number is the distance between the number we're talking about, and 0 on the number line. You could also put the word 0 if it fits. I'm not sure if it'll fit inside that box. For example, the absolute value of negative 4.5 is 4.5 units because it is that far to the left of 0. And so just so you can see the notation again, I would do absolute value bar, negative 4.5, absolute value bar, equals 4.5, or I could also say 4.5 units. And then if I want to think of another number that has the same absolute value, it would be the positive version of this. So the absolute value of positive 4.5 also equals that. So these opposites always have the same absolute value because it's how big the number is, how far away it is from 0, regardless of which side you go. All right, have fun with practicing this skill and with typing in the absolute value bars. This is the second time that you've seen this particular piece. And so what I want you to do is when you're done with this video and you've filled in your example, if someone is available to talk right then, please find someone to talk to, either a parent or a grandparent or a sibling, tia or tia, or a friend over FaceTime or over the phone, and tell them what you learned in this video. What skills, what vocabulary did you learn? And the reason for this, for yesterday and today and tomorrow, is we want to be developing and practicing math language. This is a new language for us, and we want to continue to develop these words and use them, not just have them spoken to us, but also speak them back to somebody else and explain what we're learning. Hopefully this example was helpful for you, and I look forward to seeing your amazing work on this lesson.